compliance automation is bullshit. I'm Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard, where we help you have that risk conversation with your customer. And I keep seeing 3 or 4 vendors automate 90% of your SOC 2. Get your thing done in AI in 5 seconds or less. And the truth is, this is leave our logos at the door. Let's all get in a room together and let's solve the damn problem. And until GRC engineering and then all the ecosystem tools come together, we're going to be you have to do this or you lose $5 million and unemploy 17,000 people. I was terrified. Damn it, it doesn't have to be hard. There's 8 things you need to do. One of those things is have a solid I bought a tool, I'm compliant today. No. In fact, the next day, you're probably out of compliance. 99% of this stuff, we're not doing. And the 1%, that's what we can be held accountable. Go speak to an MSP lawyer and start there. I couldn't Google because it didn't exist. In this information age, there's a lot of good jumping off points, but they are not the source of truth. Everything about our business has completely changed. And one lesson that I've been learning is to be able to, oh my God, I'm afraid to learn this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to talk to the customer. Here's a thought. Bring up. No, I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to type it in chat, so I'm not saying it.
Tim, welcome to the MSP Insider. Please tell the audience who you are, what you do, and why the hell did you do it?
Jeffrey, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be part of this as being able to come into the community and have hard, crucial conversations. I'm Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard, where we help you, the MSP, have that risk conversation with your customer using the Compliance Scorecard platform.
Awesome. That's great. And I'm excited to dive into this one because my past, my experience, my interaction is so, I don't have the right word for it. You probably have a better word for it because you deal with it with MSPs too. As it relates to compliance and security, like my role oftentimes ended up being like the person that had to interface with the compliance person and then figure out how to deal with the security stuff. Not great at it. Security was not my forte by any means, but you end up getting into these conversations that really just truly need to be conversations and getting to the point of understanding. So I'm really excited to tap into the conversation with someone who knows it so well and has been through it and in it for so long. So we're going to dive there. But before we do, the way that we start off the show to make sure that it's nice and normal and organic is there's a double blind date that we're going on. All right. So my last guest left behind a question for my next guest, which is you. And it was double blind, so no one knew who was who. But at any rate, this question I was not prepared for. I'm really interested for the answer. And then maybe we have to gamify it somehow. So the question came from Adam Anderson from Threat Captain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the
one
question,
of our good friends working really well together. Great platform, Threat Captain.
Yeah, great dude, great person, great platform to your point. Just another good anchor in the channel. His question threw me off. Let's see what it does to you. But if you could design any tattoo you wanted that Jeffrey, me, had to get as a tramp stamp, what would that be?
So I've actually thought about this over the years because I do have a couple of tattoos myself.
Yeah.
And this will sound really morbid, but it has very, deep ties.
Okay.
I actually have my grandfather's tombstone tattooed on my back shoulder.
Okay.
That way he's always watching my back.
Nice.
Right. And then I had let's get the whole back done and let's put it on a cliff with a bonsai tree and the sun. And, before I knew it, I was $7 or $8 million into ink and pain and time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So you needed to get a tattoo. Maybe think of something
as a tramp stamp.
As a tramp stamp.
No, you get to design it. So if Tim Golden could design a tramp stamp tattoo that I have to get, what would you design?
So, all right, we're just going to go off cuff here, right?
Yeah.
So we're off the bottom with the arrow pointing down that say, good luck to all ye who enter here.
Perfect. I'm sure my producers are going to have a blast coming up with a title card graphic for this one. But
I could probably design something. GPT could help.
That's
badly.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man. All right.
Beware of all who enter here.
Yeah. The way that this worked out is actually really awesome because of one, it was completely unplanned. Two, just like with any guest, I try to figure out what are three things that you're completely unhinged about as it relates to the way the world works in our channel, our little tiny slice of the world. And one of the first categories that you had, which is how this whole thing ties together, is that compliance automation is bullshit, right? So see what I did there? I've seen your LinkedIn posts. I've been in some tertiary outside conversations around it. And I'm really fascinated by the concept of like when you say that compliance automation is bullshit. Like what exactly are vendors selling that's making MSPs believe that they can shortcut compliance in any way?
So funny. Like I didn't even realize what I don't even keep my calendar in my head, number
Yeah.
one. Number two, I'm like, oh my God, we got this live stream. But this morning, I literally posted about CMMC. It's time
Mm.
to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I posted compliance automation is bullshit. I've been on this spicy kick all week. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Maybe because I just am.
Yeah.
But when I think about like what do I really mean about compliance automation and the bullshit marketing fluff that goes around it?
Mm-hmm.
We're all on the Insta faces and the Ugrams and the tube, platforms and all the things.
Yeah.
And when I'm doom scrolling and I keep seeing 3 or 4 vendors in my ad feed
Mm.
where it says automate 90% of your SOC 2. We solve automation compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Get your thing done in AI in 5 seconds or less.
Yeah.
Buy CMMC or SOC in a box. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, these things literally being bombarded to us. And I'm like, I know, because I'm building a platform trying to actually automate where appropriate,
Mm.
right? Trying to bring GRC engineering to old way of compliance and new AI way of compliance
Mm.
thinking together. And the truth is, this is a fucking art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I see these things over and over and over, like automate 90% of your SOC 2, okay,
Mm.
first and foremost, what domains or what controls or what CSO, what things are they
Yeah.
automating,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we can get into the deep technical weeds of like, and the easiest example, right? Passwords.
Mm.
Yay, you can have passwords. Okay, it's a requirement,
Yeah.
regardless of the exact verbiage of passwords.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first and foremost, how do we automate the proof of that control? Well, number one, do we have a policy?
Mm.
Has that policy been approved by a human and reviewed and signed off and agreed like this is what we do?
Yeah.
Do we have a procedure for actually creating that?
Mm.
Sure, I can spin up Microsoft 365 and Graph and look into your tenant and see is two-factor enabled or not.
Mm.
But the reality is if I don't have a policy, I don't have a procedure, those haven't been governed, approved, authorized, and then metrics tied
Mm.
to it. And what I mean by metrics are, is your password long? Is it changed? Is it two-factored? Is it all admin accounts? What are the KPIs
Mm.
that then any automation tool is going to pull out of something?
Yeah.
Right? You think of full circle.
Yep.
I can tie in Microsoft Graph. I can go peek in your Microsoft tenant. I can look at all the user accounts and I can see whether they have 2FA or not.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell what the password is. I can't tell necessarily the exact strength of that password. I might be able to get a little bit of details, but all I can really get is, do they have this or do they not? When was it last changed? When was it not? But
Yeah.
then I have no KPIs, no policy, no procedure saying,
Mm.
this is what we're supposed to do. This is the tool that says you do it. And this
Yeah.
is the data out of the system. They don't all match up. They don't.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, what I was thinking about as you're saying that too is like, but what I hear you describing, similar to like I had opened with, like when I was in the seat where I was the guy that had to talk to the compliance people. I had no business doing it. I had to be the one.
but you needed to be.
But I had to be, right?
Somebody,
Like someone had to
you had,
be. And so
somebody had.
that was the thing. Okay, great. Like I'll go have these conversations, figure it out. Like what's the risk? What are we measuring? What are we doing? At any rate, what I heard you saying there is like this is almost like pencil whip 2.0 is kind of what I'm hearing to a certain extent. Is like back then when it was sort of like trust and we can never verify.
Mm-hmm.
The industry got away with pencil whipping a lot of shit, right? And
Yeah.
and because it was possible to do that, like that's just sort of the way it evolved, right? Compliance and security was just like this awful thing, the worst person you had to go talk to, not because they were bad people, but because it was frustrating and annoying and like it added friction to things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really considered it, as to why like automating it might be not a good thing or why is it a bad thing, but like it was opening my eyes just listening to you. It's like, oh shit, what I hear you saying is like this is just 2025's version of pencil whipping the
Yeah.
paperwork to an extent.
Yeah. So I've been, like I said, I posted the other day, I've been having this big debate on how I
Yeah.
think it's bullshit and how all the other competitors are like, yes, but AI and this is exactly, and we
Mm-hmm.
never said 100%, whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's all good. I think as an industry around compliance and security, we can get there.
Mm.
It will take time.
Sure.
There's nuance to be figured out. And honestly, this is my passion.
Yeah.
Number one, let's us GRC nerds,
Mm.
right? Us
Mm-hmm.
people that live and breathe this security and compliance, let's leave our logos at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Let's all get in a room together, maybe 80, 20 of 8 or 10 or 20 of us in a room.
Yeah.
Leave our logos and our egos, and let's solve the damn problem for the
Mm.
MSP space. And then we all go build our own things, whether in whatever
Sure.
differentiators we have. But the reality is, let me grab my hat.
Yeah.
The reality is that you have technicians trying to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have MSPs facing regulatory stuff. You have their customers facing increased scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
You have cyber insurance barking at you. You have threat actors, like you have all this
Yeah.
stuff. And when I see automation, when I see, increased efficiency, when I see the marketing buzzwords that we all get thrown into, I'm like, oh my God, I can get on a call with a salesperson and they can automate 90% of my SOC 2. Perfect.
Mm.
But then when I actually get into the weeds, and it takes me 100 hours to set up all the automations that then break.
Yeah.
Or then that don't actually meet the requirements, or that don't actually match up to the policies, procedures, and organizational things in place. And I realize, yeah, it wasn't really 90%. Maybe it was 8, 10%. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying the marketing bullshit needs to stop. And until GRC engineering, software, and then all the ecosystem tools come together, we're going to be stuck in this world of manual labor still exists in the compliance space for the moment.
Got it. Yeah. One thing I want you to do to give us a proper like frame for this conversation, because I know it can be dense. One, define GRC quick. And then 2, in Tim's vision of like where we are as an industry and as like this thing, anchor me to, and you started with some like process control probably, and the things that I procedure, like hit me with all those things too, so I know the boundaries to stay within so that I can drive an intelligent conversation. Because I know if I came into this and was listening on the side at the bar just as much, like I'd be just as like, what the fuck are they even saying?
Yeah, so GRC, governance, risk, and compliance.
Okay.
The word governance, if you go to the root of it way back in the 12th century or whatever, means to steer. It was actually to govern the ship through the channels, or to steer the ship.
Got it.
So governance, or govern, is a process of steering and guiding and approving and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Risk, I mean, risk is pretty self-explanatory,
Sure.
right? We
Yep.
are the risk component. And then compliance.
Hmm.
I like to use the word compliance as the security referee,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Compliance has the playbook, it has the rule book. They are the referees
Hmm.
down on the field with all the players,
Hmm.
making sure throwing the flags when, you have helmet to helmet or
Yeah.
tripping or whatever. They have the playbook, they have the guardrails. The compliance is that sort of security referee.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. So my reference point as well, like when I was then dealing with the compliance officers, is probably what I would have called them at inside the
Yeah.
businesses, was like this huge gap between the process, the policy, and the control.
Yeah.
And then I looked also at like where MSPs struggle so badly internally for themselves, which is operationalizing anything they chose to do, right? Like they may have picked
Good.
the tool, but it's only 20% deployed and it's
Yeah,
on
yeah.
next year's process. So like if I'm trying to understand the reality of an MSP as it relates to this, and then you look at the strangeness in the industry for the last, I'll call it 7 years, where it's like people started trading S's around and calling themselves one thing or another when they really had no business adding or taking away an extra S. Like, where
So
do we
here,
go from here?
yeah. So the evolution of the IT company, right?
Mm-hmm.
We started in our mom's basement. We became the de facto iPhone fixer for the family.
Yeah.
Then our neighbors started asking, and then we realized I shouldn't be doing this for free. And yay, we're a break fix company.
Mm-hmm.
The Kaseya, the ConnectWise, those organizations really helped us propel it into a managed kind of situation, charging a monthly fee for IT operations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the last decade or so has been IT operations. We've figured that out. We know we can make MRR, gain some efficiency, build some stuff around IT operations.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
RMM, PSA, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yep. Yep.
Where we have been missing the last 5 to 7 years and where we are headed is security operations,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Security, compliance, and risk, trusted advisor operations,
Yeah.
right? That's the next frontier is MSPs then getting out of mom's basement,
Yeah.
charging the neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
monthly reoccurring revenue to becoming those true trusted professionals. Just like I go to my doctor, I
Mm-hmm.
go to my podiatrist, I go to my lawyer, I go to my trusted professional
Mm-hmm.
that's no longer seen as the hoodie kid in the basement, but as
Yeah.
seen as that security operational professional.
Mm-hmm.
We become a true
Mm.
relationship from IT operations to security operations
Yeah.
and being able to bring the basics. Damn it, it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
There's like 8 things you probably need to do.
Yeah.
One of those things is have a solid agreement in place
Mm.
that clearly says 99% of this stuff we're not doing,
Yeah.
period.
Right.
And the 1%, that's what we can be held accountable. So damn it, start with a solid MSA. Don't take a template across the internet.
Mm.
Go speak to an MSP lawyer and start there.
Yeah.
Whew. All right,
That's
off my soapbox.
No, it's a great point because like anytime you venture into the unknown, like the majority of the trepidation comes from the fact that it's not known, right? And then you look at MSP owners who, like it or not, they're how can I help people? They are innate problem solvers and they don't want to say no, right? So like you
Yes,
combine
we're the
that,
loyal yellow
co-
lab.
yeah, you combine that
We're the boxer
cocktail,
behind me. We're
yeah,
checkers.
absolutely, right? And then you combine that with like the ever changing paper pioneers like the lawyers, right? The regulators and the lawyers. And that's not a bad thing, but it is the reality that that shit changes all the time. Not for a bad reason either, but like staying on top of it. So it's like, it's really creating this catalyst for an MSP's worst case scenario, which is I don't have the answer. I don't know. And I don't want to tell you no. And I feel like this is a fear of failure. And one of the things that I think, whether you like it or not, or known that you've done it or not, like my observation from the outside inside in too, is things like being recognized for, I guess I'll call it GTIA, Cybersecurity Leadership Award, right? Like you're in this position where you can comfortably and confidently have conversations to help break down the barriers and like the facade of ignorance is not an option anymore for MSPs. And so like you've managed to go that route, yet so many MSPs are like running away screaming from compliance conversations still. Like I didn't want to have them, but I had to go have them, to the point earlier. Like what do you think is behind the irrational fear that is keeping MSPs from actually embracing compliance as a strategic advantage when everyone else is afraid of it?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, like the fear of the unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fear of, and we hear this all the time, the fear of getting it wrong.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a big misconception, and we see this with our existing partner base and Compliance Scorecard. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I bought a tool, I'm compliant today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, in fact, even if you do all the work, get all the check boxes, as much
Yeah.
as I hate that checkbox analogy,
Mm-hmm.
the next day you're probably out of compliance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the fear of getting it wrong and
Mm-hmm.
screwing up their customer and making their customer mad and losing the customer, and even more so, like
Yeah.
looking foolish,
Mm-hmm.
right? Looking
Yeah.
dumb. Or, heaven forbid, you go a CMMC route and you do a bunch of work and your customer fails their audit
Mm-hmm.
because of you. So the fear of getting it
Yeah.
wrong, the fear of looking dumb, like all those
Yeah, all that
fears, we
stuff,
hear
right?
them all the time.
Yeah.
The flip side is, and what I really have loved seeing in the last probably 8 to 12 months is, we know we need to do this.
Yeah.
We are being asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
We are the boxer puppy, loyal to a fault and want to do this,
Yeah.
but we know we need help.
Yeah.
Which is why Compliance Scorecard
Got it.
acquired Privacy MSP and added pro services, because there are people like us and others, we're not the
Mm-hmm.
only one, willing to work alongside you as an MSP and help you and
Yeah.
and help you become successful.
Right.
I mean, I did not walk into compliance on day one and memorize all of 853. In fact, little anecdotal, I really struggled with dyslexia. I really struggled with reading comprehension, especially printed paper would drive me batshit crazy. And back then, screen readers didn't exist.
Yeah.
So I literally had to print manuals out and fight my way through it to read these things and comprehend them way back in 2006.
Yeah.
I couldn't pull up a screen reader or a thing on my phone with a YouTube video that explained it all.
Right.
And I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
When we got that first contract and it said 853, and even the department didn't even know what the hell that meant, and was like, you have to do this or you lose $5 million and unemploy 17,000 people and blah, 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 blah. I sat with my CEO and I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to figure it out. I'm going to fall on my face over the years. And we did. But that's okay, because as the IT professional in a multi-million-dollar organization that did federal government work, I had to be able to be okay with myself and say, I have no clue, but I'm willing to put in the effort.
Right.
I'm willing to fail, as long as you're willing to fail up with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally resonate with that because, I grew up through the lens of failing forward. So like failure was never, I was very fortunate in that was the worldview I was given. And so that placed me ahead, I think, in a lot of ways, because like the only failure was not continuing, right? Like or not showing up to try. Like those two things were the non-starters, but everything else was fair game, and lessons were the most important thing to chase. And so, I was default to action, but also calloused to that emotional component, because I understand it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I didn't go to school for IT. The first
Neither
11
did I.
years in my MSP's world was technical, right? So like much like you described, like I'm not dyslexic, but I always felt like I was if I had to read anything. Didn't matter if it was textbooks in school or any, like I just can't sit and process information that way. I can't do it.
Yeah, this comes up with me a lot. Like, and thank you for bringing up the now GTIA Leadership Award.
Yeah,
Like, I don't go after certificates
right.
because I literally break out in hives when I have to think I have an exam coming up in 6 weeks that I'm not
Yeah.
ready for. But if you verbally gave me that exam, I could
Mm,
pass it no problem. You
right.
sit me in front of a computer or a laptop and you hand me a
Yeah.
pencil.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's a pencil on my desk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trigger point.
Yep.
And I do that on purpose because I need to be able to better and grow myself. So there's
Yeah.
trigger points that I have
Right.
laying around, as you said, the
Yeah.
emotional component, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
when I
so
first,
huge. Because
you know,
the way I resonate with that was I already knew my journey on the tech side of the business was going to be 1.5 times more expensive than anyone else's. Why? Because I knew I was going to fail the fucking tests to get my certifications, and I bought the like bonus vouchers to try again, and I knew I was going to fail that because I just couldn't sit in that environment and take a test and pass. Yet if you put
yeah,
me in the field, right, I could do all the CLI configuration on Cisco 800
yep,
series routers, and I could do all the stuff tactically. I could do it all
yep,
practically. I could help the people. I could make the customer feel really good about it, but I couldn't do the things that would ensure my success on the technical track. And
yeah,
that's kind of
it's
where
cool.
like the change came, right? So I moved from tech stuff into, at that time, really it was account management that got labeled VCIO, which isn't any better now than it was before. In fact, it's probably better then because it didn't have any expectations around it. But I did that for a couple of years. And ultimately, what I ended up being was a glorified sales engineer, basically, which was fine. But that led me into becoming or moving into the sales and marketing side. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, the reason that I embraced that so much was one, it was the greatest personal development journey I ever set
Thanks.
foot on was like sales. And then
Yeah.
two, I didn't have to have any freaking certifications to prove
Mm.
my worth, my
Sandler.
value, or my contribution in that
Yeah,
regard, right? Like it was my results. What did I close? What are the agreements? Where did I hit my numbers or not?
totally. Well, congrats on that journey. Sales is not for the fainted of heart,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I got thrust into that role.
Hmm.
Uh, here we are. We're doing well. We now have a sales team, but
Right.
I'm still actively involved, and
Hmm.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
I hate the cold call.
Yeah.
But you get me on the phone or in front of somebody, totally
Hmm.
different story.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
So there's a modality piece to that too, right? That I think people don't offer enough. I don't know what the right word is. Like, you, well, one, we're not innately programmed to know how to do it. So we're right
right.
back to that like fear of failure, fear of the unknown thing. Then you also are literally putting yourself in a position of rejection. So like there's fear number two as a human being. And then on top of that, you want to be amazing at what you do because we're used to being the smartest people in the room. We're used to being able to solve problems. And now you're stuck in this weird amalgamation of humans and
Hmm.
communication and nuance and emotion. And I do think there's something to be said, though, about how you said, right? Put me in a room, I'm great. Make me pick up the phone and call. No, it's like, okay, well, how do we play to and double down on your strengths
Yeah.
and then account for and make up for the weaknesses somewhere else. There was a hiring tactic that I picked up along the way too, where it was I'll butcher the way that it is essentially, but like don't hire for strengths instead of the absence of weaknesses is like the mindset for it. And when
Mm.
that shift happened, and then you couple that with like the who, not how, it was just sort of totally game changing. Um,
Uh, right there on the floor. I
yeah,
actually have the hard copy
yeah,
and
yeah,
in my Audible, Who
right,
Not How.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
actually bought the hard copy
right.
after listening because there's a couple illustrations like I wanted
Hmm.
it after the fact.
I'm
But
the same way to your point, and I'll audiobook anything first, and then if I feel as though there's things I want to really extract and implement, then I just buy the hard copy, and then I have it as like my field manual, and I have it somewhere back there. But that particular one, who know how, because it was great. It was like I'm not a math guy, I'm a sales guy. So like 1 + 1 can't equal 3. When you hire the right people and get the fuck out of their way and give them the resources they need with clear expectations, like that's ultimately, what I took from the who, not how. And I get to see that play out now in the business. I want to go back though to kind of that fear component because whether anyone else is talking about it, I feel like this is a core underpinning to where we are. What basic misunderstandings are crippling MSPs when it comes to compliance?
The level of effort it takes to do the work.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So as much as large language models, AIs, GPTs, automations, all the crap we talked about in the beginning exist, the human element of doing work, like when we bring a partner on, we tell them right up front, you're probably going to have 20 to 30 hours of setup work.
Yeah.
Right? Now, for the benefit of the platform is you can then scale that quickly, easy, efficient, whatever. But, to get your own house in order, you're going to need policies. You're going to need procedures. I mean, I digress here for a second. I spent, we have a new Kickstart program. I spent a couple of hours with one of our MSPs and literally like rabbit hole, because we're technical people.
Yep.
Right. We're like, I need to build an SOP for onboarding. Great. Okay. Step 1, hire the person.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Step 1, put a job offer out. No. Step 1, realize I need to hire. No. Step 1, find budget. Wait.
Yeah.
Stop the brakes. Right? It's like, how do I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? You get bread, you put peanut butter, you put jelly, you slap them together. No. I have to go to the store. Wait, I have to make a shopping. No, wait, I have to realize I have no peanut. The documentation component, there's work involved. And as much as AI and GPTs can help us, you should still read them and you should still tailor them. And you should expect to spend 20 hours or so in making sure that whatever LLM or GPT or template, even ours, you should make sure that they're appropriately written. Because if they're not and you publish them, you will open yourself up for more risk. All right. I went down a rabbit hole. I don't know if I actually answered your question.
Yeah, I think you did, because I think the root of the answer is that there are no silver bullets, right? There's only lead bullets, and don't avoid the hard work. The success and the results that you want rest on the other side of the work that we avoid. And so, just like working out, right? I'm not going to lose weight or gain muscle if I don't get my ass to exercise, period, right? Or eat differently or any of that stuff. And it's really no different, is what I'm hearing you say, is like the fact that we can acknowledge that it's a big ass elephant and it's in our room. Like the only choice we have is to start eating it one bite at a time, right? But like, go do the thing. And one of the other, speaking of eating things, this will be the last things that'll tie up to, shit that we were talking about earlier from, I think it's Ben Horowitz from The Hard Thing About Hard Things, his book.
Yes, I got that one too.
Yeah, dude, there's a line in that one that he brings out about one of his mentors along the way. And I'm going to butcher it as well, but it's essentially like, if you have to eat shit, don't nibble, I think is how it's delivered, right? So like, compliance isn't going away. Compliance is only going to become more complex because of the complexity of our world. There might be some tools that make it a little more approachable, but like, if you have to eat shit, don't nibble. Like, just dive in and start. Because one of the other symptoms that I saw MSPs often do, not as it related to compliance, to anything, was like, we would put more work into thinking about the thing that needed to be done versus the amount of work it would have taken to just go do the thing.
To just go do it.
Yeah.
Just go do it. So, we had that yearly or weekly podcast with our good friend Jesse and Tim, Tim. One of my mantras every single week is do something. Start now. Don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
Just start. Right. Just start.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lesson that I learned in going through our first, like, in 2006-07, when I had to deal with all this, I couldn't Google incident response plan because it didn't exist. I couldn't Google password. Like, these things did not exist. So I literally had to write crap from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this information age, in the LLM age, there's a lot of good jumping off points,
Yeah.
but they are not the source of truth.
Sure.
Your brain, your people, your process,
Mm-hmm.
your tech is the source of truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in another conversation and we talked about basically like SOP, documentation, system, process, all the things that we avoid because that's just who we are. And like how valuable it could be to just acknowledge that, but also to not like crucify yourself because you don't have those things. Instead,
It's
maybe one of the most valuable resources you could invest in is a technical writer. A technical writer
yeah,
that's essentially like an assistant that follows your ass around and documents everything that you're doing. And now you at least have the basis for here is how
love.
we do it here. Right.
So in my last MSP thought leadership website, in my last session, we talked about this, and I
Mm,
stressed this point. A, it has to get done, but us as leaders in our company, CEOs,
yeah.
service managers, leaders in our company,
Mm-hmm.
we need to give our staff time, pay them for that time, turn off interrupters,
Mm-hmm.
and let them take an hour a week and go write,
Yeah.
go document, go fill out a thing. Like that's, we're busy with tickets, we're busy with fires, we're awesome, cool project, yay,
Yeah.
new tool.
Yeah.
Like pump the brakes,
Right.
take an hour a week. If every person on your team took a half an hour to 45 minutes a week, that us as leadership said, I'm going to pay you to block off an hour in your week. Now, it could be 15 minutes here, 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes there, whatever. I'm going to give you the time
Yeah.
to do the work. Go do the work.
Right. Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
same would be true for professional development and training, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
We, as business owners, business leaders, we need to empower our team. We need to give them the time and the tools and the technology to do the work. And we need to set that time aside. And we need to be okay if, like, hey, I didn't make this number, but I did all this documentation.
Right.
I kind of missed this meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but I was working on,
Yeah.
a tree course.
Yeah. It's like classic inversion, basically inversion and constraint, right? Like, because the story is normally, and I think this is why it is this way, we have so many things in our business to point to that are tangible and that to an extent insulate you from arguing with it, right? Like, well, I didn't get the documentation done because I restored the Exchange server that was down. I didn't do the documentation because I had to get this implementation done. I didn't get to
Oh,
the
here's a thought.
documentation.
Here's a thought. Bring up Scribe How,
Mm,
record your
yeah, yeah,
screen,
right,
or bring up Teams, Loom, Zooms, whatever.
right.
Record your damn screen while you're doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a big, it's such a big miss. And that would be a great application of where you could bring in AI and LLMs and other tools that exist to enable the initial creation, but you're not outsourcing the creation of the thing to them. You're saying,
Right.
hey, technical writer, even if it's a digital one,
Right.
follow me while I do the thing. And now what are we talking about? We're basically talking about what it was like back in the day of craftsmanship, right? You are now the apprentice and you're a journeyman and you're going to start there until you get to the next level, right? But like it's going to
Yep.
take you 7 years to get to where I am. And it's going to be 7 years of work of learning. Like we've just sort of like shortcutted this concept of it's okay to suck at something that you've never done before. It's also okay to
Yep.
not have the answers to things that you've never dealt with. What's not
Right.
okay is to not try, and what's not okay is to not lean into the discomfort when you experience it.
Right. Well, and
Hmm.
I think it's the only way people grow is to be able to get outside their comfort
Yeah.
zone. And this is something that all right, I'll just be a little personal here for a minute. So everything about our business has completely changed since September, October. And one lesson that I've been learning dozens of times a day right now, and it's really hard, which is to be able to lead through the emotion
Hmm.
as opposed to leading with the emotion. I'm not great at it.
Yeah.
I'm a verbal processor
Sure.
and not verbal vomiting on my team when
Yep.
I'm emotionally triggered.
Yeah.
i.e., the reason why I have a pencil on my desk.
Hmm.
Usually it's a red pen.
Yeah.
To be able to lead through those emotions, i.e., oh my God, I'm afraid to learn this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to talk to the customer. I'm blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yep.
take a
Yeah.
breath, take a beat,
Hmm.
lead through that, bring in your trusted advice, like
Yeah.
for me, it's two or three people on our team, my wife, like,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's my inner circle, right?
Yeah.
Circle of trust.
Hmm.
And then lead through it, right?
Yeah.
You,
I love that. The way that I liked to label that in my own like personal self-discovery was acknowledging the state that I was in and knowing whether I needed to be in a position where I could talk to think or think to talk. And like labeling that and then allowing myself to go do that in different ways. The other thing I thought of, which one of my mentors had told me halfway through my MSP journey, probably, was it was an all staff meeting and it opened up and it was just this picture of some buffalo. Like, that's a random thing to start off the meeting with, but whatever. But then he gave the story behind like why he chose the buffalo. And the company, just to give some context, was getting ready to do arguably the hardest thing it had ever done, which was writing off 40% of its business to focus solely on recurring revenue managed services and get away from mid-market and enterprise project stuff, right? But this slide of the buffalo was up there, and his point was that buffalo are the only mammals that we're aware of that when faced with adversity, which in their world is a storm, like a snowstorm in this case, they're the only mammal that will walk towards and through the storm to get to the other side. Every other mammal will like group up, herd up, and wait for the storm to pass over them, whereas
Interesting.
buffalo orient towards it and walk straight through it. And the illustration was like, hey, yeah, like there is a storm there. It's pretty freaking snowy, right? It's going to be some hard times, but we know that if we simply walk through it, to your point, and lead through it, we'll actually get
Yeah.
to the other side where it's safe and green grass faster and easier than if we stayed in one spot hoping it would pass and then it's hovered over us for 10 days and there's nothing
Yep.
to eat or drink. Like, it's just a really fascinating uh, visual. And I even
I
fact
love
checked
that.
him on it because I didn't believe it at the time because I, hate
Well,
authority and am defiant. So I had to figure it
I
out
mean,
for myself.
the same thing could be said about the ship in the channel with the
Mm,
storm lingering over them, and they need to govern that ship through the
yeah,
channel.
right.
Mm.
Yeah. No, that's smart and true.
Nice little subliminal tie-in to governance, risk, and compliance.
Yeah. So one other thing I want to maybe add some color to or just ask about is because compliance, I would never say was anything I was like really having to deal with. It was more like the security stuff, which to me was the checking the boxes things, right? Like, hey, we have to check these boxes. Let's not just check them. Let's deploy this stuff. So maybe you could call that compliance, but it was less regulated industries and more, just conscious businesses. And so when I think about the industry's evolution for the last couple of years, there was sort of this mass movement where either you went one of two ways. You went all in on figuring out how the hell to sell security stuff appropriately and then deploy it and whatever. Or you took the other route, which was you didn't actually figure out how to get them to say yes. And as a result, you put this like liability waiver thing in front of them or call it whatever you want to call it. But like it was sort of like this get out of jail free card or like the chicken exit at the amusement park. Like, and we've just sort of accepted that as MSPs, thinking that we were like protecting ourselves or diverting risk or like placing it somewhere else. But it seems like also that reality is kind of shifting under our feet too. And so maybe one, do you agree with that? And two, maybe talk us through where you see compliance and security going so that MSPs that are listening and actually willing to change could start to skate towards the puck where it's headed versus continuing to like dig our heels in.
So, the reality is it's not going away. Compliance regulations are here. Things like CMMC exist.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going away. You're probably too late. CMMC might be the extreme. I might actually lean a little more into like the FTC safeguards.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. The FTC safeguards is a nice sort of foundational set of controls and requirements and policies.
Mm-hmm.
And you would be surprised at the number of industries and verticals I hate to use the word require it,
Yeah, yeah,
but it falls into, right? So, you used to always say FTC only applies to car dealerships. Well, that's not entirely true anymore. That
mm,
ruling has changed. It applies to way more industries than you might think of.
yeah,
And it's obtainable, achievable. I don't use the word easy,
yeah,
but
right.
you can get there. And it's an easier sell to your customer on the fact that, I've been watching the FTC safeguards, and the analogy that I like to use is, Jerry, I don't know how old you are, but in the 60s and 70s, cars didn't have seatbelts.
Mm, yeah,
Right? I grew up, I sat on a pillow in the back seat. Half the
right.
time I sat
Yeah.
in the truck bed on the lift gate with my
Hmm.
feet dangling down,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Seatbelts didn't exist. And then as we grew as a society and realized, oh, I should probably wear this thing over my chest, I probably won't get killed in the event of an accident.
Hmm.
The FTC safeguards is much like that. Cops, in this case FTC, in the
Sure.
60s and 70s weren't pulling people over and ticketing them.
Yeah.
Now you can't drive through a state without a sign that says click it or ticket.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
FTC safeguards, same kind of thing. Like here's some seat belts.
Hmm.
You should probably think about wearing them. And yeah, I'm not going to sit on the corner and hunt you down for not doing it. But if you do get pulled over and you don't have it enabled or whatever,
Right.
I'm probably going to give you a ticket.
Yeah. Hmm.
And at some point in the near future, you won't be able to drive through a business without FTC safeguards or seat belts.
Yeah.
Like that's the analogy. Like
Yeah.
FTC safeguards is like seatbelts in the 70s versus now.
Yeah. That makes sense. And the other thing that would be true or is true about really like regulation change, even if it comes slowly, is once it comes, it doesn't really go away. And it will only continue to evolve, change, sharpen, get to a certain point of like equilibrium. So if we can learn anything about, the last 5 years as it relates to like insurance, cyber insurance specifically, and like how that coverage requirements and all that's changed. And we now are thinking like what compliance challenge is about to blindside the MSPs that are unprepared in the next 12 to 24 months for where it's going. As things like FTC or any other safeguard or any other control or any other governing body sort of starts to tighten it up, it seems like we're way past now the point where you can just kind of ignore it and hope for the best because culpability shifted, right? Liability has shifted, and you just don't have that option anymore.
Yeah, ignoring it's not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of whatever federal things come out, and I'm not even going to get into the
Sure.
political baloney now. Cyber insurance is asking for stuff. We see the rise and fall and the step ladder effect of the ups and downs of the cyber insurance component. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I go back to compliance gives you some guardrails and some playbooks as your security referee.
Yeah.
It helps you move your needle down a path with some guidelines and some things and some good practices and some stuff that you can present to your customer
Mm-hmm.
to build defensibility
Yeah.
in yourself and your customer. Because when the crap hits the fan and you're standing in front of the jury of your peers, whether that's in court,
Hmm.
cyber insurance,
Sure.
or the court of public opinion, you want to be able to show, hey, listen, we weren't 100% compliance, but we did due care, due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
We worked on stuff.
Yeah.
We identified risk and made risk-based decisions.
Yeah.
The right ones? I don't know whether the right, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
We still got, but
But you're at
whatever.
least facing it, right? And you were
But
working through that.
we had the risk conversation
Mm-hmm.
and we made risk-based decisions
Yeah.
and we built defensibility and we built that ability to show that we put in some due care, some due process, some due effort.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't
Yeah.
have it all 100%,
Yeah.
but we did not do nothing.
Right.
We did not stick our head in the sand and play like it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm. I want to.
Those days are gone.
Yeah. That I agree with. The thing I want to do is take a little bit different turn from my initial line of questioning because what what I feel is probably more true than what gets seen is kind of the concept of that silent majority. I feel like there's probably a silent majority of MSPs that would agree with what you just said. And they're finally ready to at least mentally prepare to get serious for compliance or about compliance. If that's true, what would the first conversation, let me ask this better. What is the first conversation they should be having and with whom?
So if let me
If an
make sure.
MSP is finally ready to truly approach the compliance, whatever initiative, concept, idea, whatever,
Yeah,
like what's the first conversation they should be having and who should they be having it with?
absolutely. The single most important thing that any MSP can do to begin a compliance journey is have a human,
Mm,
empower that human, make them the compliance expert, whatever. It doesn't even have to be the expert.
mm,
Make them the champion of compliance in
yeah,
your organization. And by the way, it doesn't have to be your 11, your level 7 technician. It
yeah,
may actually be somebody that has better project management skills,
hmm,
somebody that has those soft skills and not those tech skills, right?
yeah, right,
Have a
yeah,
person, have a champion, empower them, give them the time, the
hmm,
flexibility, and the authority
yeah.
to do the work.
Here's an interesting question on that specific topic because I'm thinking back 18 years, 5 MSPs, but 7 different times. That's my career track. Every single one of those stops at every single one of those MSPs every time had at least one individual from the team leave to pursue security as a new track, right? So if that part is true, and I'm sure others have experienced it as well, is it foolish or could it be a potential career progression track to take one of those ambitious individuals who wants to go down more of that security track anyways, so they're willing and able, they get it, wanting have the capacity or willing to learn the capacity to do it? Like, is that a potential on ramp
So
instead of off ramp, or is that way too risky, way too stupid?
there is a path from zero to hero, right? There
Yeah.
is a path from you know level 1, 2, 3 technician
Hmm.
to compliance to this to that. There is a path. I'm not
Yeah.
going to get into all the gory details
Sure.
because
Sure.
what we, not us, we are part of an organization and a group of people and a group of educators, cyber experts, GRC experts,
Hmm.
really wealthy people coming
Yeah.
together and building out the next generation of cyber soldiers, of cyber leaders,
Hmm.
getting, and this is the line that we keep using, from truck driver to cybersecurity expert. Now there's a path there, there's
Sure.
work, there's stuff. If
Hmm.
you look at the NIST, National Institute of
Yeah.
Standards and Technology, and you look at the NICE framework within NIST,
Hmm.
there's a job path there. You can get from truck driver to cybersecurity expert in a period of time with the right training and the right people supporting you.
Yeah.
We're building that.
Got it.
Part of a group of people that under Bellini Capital at the
Mm.
Bellini Center of Excellence in Florida. We're building that.
Okay.
Not just us, but
Sure.
there's other schools, other universities, other really smart people.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why they picked me, but
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
In our team,
It's
not
because of
just
your
me,
passion.
not just me, but people on
Yeah.
our team. How do
Hmm.
you get from hero to zero?
Hmm.
First things first, take some courses, determine what you like to do and what you're good
Mm.
at,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Uh, probably single hardest thing of like, I want a career in cybersecurity.
Mm.
Okay, is that red team, blue team, purple team, white team, coding,
Yeah.
DevSec, ops? Like, it's such a broad term.
Mm.
NIST,
Yeah.
nice
That's
framework,
that's
has
a
some
good point.
paths.
Yeah. It's a good point to like reframe reality too. You didn't know how old I'm 40 years old. So when I was going to college here locally at the school I went to, it was senior year last semester before the very first cybersecurity curriculum was even released, right? Like I was in like the beta class where I had to give feedback on the curriculum and all that other stuff too. So like even to hear you just rattle off the top of your head, like you deal with it all the time, all the different colored teams and all the other different stuff, like that's how much things have shifted in less than 20 years, right? So a couple of rapid fire concepts or rapid fire questions. Tim, complete this sentence for me. The average MSP compliance program is.
Say that one more time.
The average MSP's compliance program is.
Bullshit. I mean, I had to circle back to the beginning.
Great.
The average MSP's compliance program is non-existent.
That's what I thought you might say. Is like non-existent was the first thing that came to my mind. What compliance framework is most misunderstood by MSPs?
FTC safeguards? I would say CMMC. There's probably a lot.
Yeah.
The single biggest question that we get is, what framework do I do?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The answer always is, look at your customer base.
Yeah.
Determine the average customers. Hey, we have 10 healthcare and one car dealership. Yeah, we should probably do HIPAA.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. And oftentimes, and to me, to add to that point, that seems to be one of the simplest and most commonly overlooked ways to attack any problem in MSP. It's like, let's look at our actual customers first, right? We have the garden to go tend to with people who already know, like, and trust us. We have access to the environment. Everything's already there. Like, why don't we make more business decisions based off of the clients that we currently have versus the sexy dopamine of chasing new logos? That's my soapbox.
I mean, your biggest source of revenue is doubling down on your existing customers, and not just doubling the revenue stream from those existing customers, but actually protecting, defending, and securing them better.
Yeah.
Which should be the goal.
Shift to the outcome, right? Like, what outcome are we looking to deliver? Name one compliance myth you'd like to destroy forever.
Compliance automation is bullshit.
All right.
Right back to the beginning.
Yeah, we just
One compliance myth is compliance is no longer a checkbox exercise. Ongoing, continuous compliance monitoring, maintaining standards and controls along the way.
Yeah.
It is not a one and done effort, and it never was, and it will never be a one and done effort.
Yeah.
You might be compliant at the day of the audit. You will be out of compliance 24 hours later. It is never a one-shot deal. Ongoing, continuous compliance monitoring, and knock it off with the checkbox stuff.
Yeah. Amen. Something that Matt Lee really blew my mind up with when I interviewed him, I just shot a deep dive video on it actually because it blew my mind so much, was his the what, the how, the tool, and the proof exercise. I don't know if that's his, but like he's the one that said it.
Yeah,
so
we a bunch of us worked together on. And did he walk you through the balloon exercise with the CIS and the controls and all? Yeah. So not just myself, Matt, a bunch of us were part of that work group building that all out.
Yeah. So like that really, it gave me something to anchor to, which I appreciated in the conversation. And the thing though that I would say blew my mind, which is how it ties to what you just said, was the proof section.
The proof.
But like that's retroactive in nature. In other words, like I need to be proactive to be proactive to be reactive to whatever. It didn't matter. Like I have to be able to prove today. Let me back up. I have to prove the shit that I'm doing today in my MSP and that I said that I was going to do, that I actually did as time goes on. Right. So that was a really interesting reframe and refocus of defensibility, if that's the right word. But it's just like, man, to be able, to your point, like on the compliance side, when you said it doesn't ever change, that's kind of where I related the two things. It's like we have to reorient how we do what we do as MSPs to the degree that we can prove everything that we're doing across our footprint every single day, every single moment from here on out, because when something happens, you're going to have to go back and prove that you did or that you did not. That was an interesting reframe, man. That was like, wow. Okay.
And let me throw this out there. So 20 years as an MSP, building web-based applications for the federal government,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, all kinds of users across all kinds of disciplines and all kinds of verticals. Wicked smart.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
my Boston accent. Wicked
Mm-hmm.
smart people to pain in the neck people.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that we, in 20 years while I was there, never had an incident that reached the level of reportability.
Mm.
And that is because we had everything
Mm.
on the left of boom
Yeah.
documented. People were trained. They understood why we were doing the thing that we were doing. That was the hardest lesson to learn.
Yeah.
We were 100% proactive, which ultimately led to nothing really ever happening. Our tech staff, they were lucky to get 20 tickets a week.
Hmm.
Why? Because the organizations that we work with understood why we're doing this, had buy-in along the way. Like, hey, I'm removing admin rights everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, now I understand. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now nothing, quote, quote, nothing could happen.
Right.
Hey, I'm putting in a spam filter and you're probably going to lose a couple emails, but don't worry. They'll be in the quarantine and you can review them anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If you're expecting an email, pick up the damn phone and call a person and be like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
The phone still works.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We were on the left side, proactive, left of boom, ship left.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we never had an incident.
Yeah. Mm.
And if and when we did, we all knew exactly what we should be doing, who should be doing what, who was buying pizza.
Yeah.
We knew because we did tabletop exercise. We walked through oh my God, the power's out for 5 days, which happens here in New Hampshire. Like, we were well prepared so that if boom happened, which it didn't, at least while I was there.
Right.
Put the pin in that.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of had a plan to know what to do. And so as an MSP, the crappy part of the work is writing shit down.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably already doing it, which is what I learned.
Yeah.
And then I spent 6 months writing
Mm-hmm.
the stuff we were already doing. And because of that, every day for 20 years, other than power outages or acts of God, like, we never actually had somebody come into our network and rip us apart and ransom or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That I appreciate that perspective too, because it was the thing that I kind of walked away from in that conversation with Matt. Even is like, so much focus and energy is put on, and it's probably because it's what they're selling towards, right? All the vendors are selling to the right of boom, basically, and like ideally preventing boom, but like they focus on the right. And when he went through that what, how, tool, proof thing, and it was just like, oh shit, like you actually have to put more energy and more effort into left of boom and just anticipate, pray, whatever, that like boom doesn't happen. But if it does, you're in such a better place to deal with it because you've taken care of all the detail on the left versus just like, well, I'll call the vendor to help me figure out how to unfuck their situation, basically, right?
Yeah, because that'll go well.
Right. Yeah. All right.
So this has been really great. Do you have any last minute questions?
I do. I have one that I have to get from you regardless, but two. So thank you for your time. First of all, thank you for your knowledge and your expertise. I always offer the two things. One, where do people find more Tim Golden if they want to hear more about you and what you do?
If you can't find me online, you're not looking hard enough.
All right.
So compliancescorecard.com, timgolden.com, LinkedIn / Timothy Golden, Instagram.
You're there. You're well present.
They don't call me Roy Kent for nothing.
Well played. Do you have a shameful plug that you'd like to offer for Compliance Scorecard outside of what you've done?
Yeah, just that, Compliance Scorecard, you hear it all the time. We want to be a true partnership. Listen, we're an MSP just like you. We lived and breathed and dealt with this stuff just like you. We want to work side by side to help you become successful. And more importantly, help your end customer become more defensible, more secure, more compliant.
Yeah.
And we can do that at a cost-effective rate.
Okay. Awesome. And my last question to you is your opportunity to kind of ruin the next guest's day. If you could leave one question behind for the next guest,
I was
what
going
would
to
that
say,
question be?
I think I gave you one, but based on what you gave me earlier,
All right. Yeah, I love it.
I'm gonna have to think. Let me think real quick on the spot. So it was you and a tramp stamp, right?
It was. Yeah.
All right. So your next guess, what is one component beyond compliance in the technology space that you think is bullshit?
Hmm.
Tying
Right.
right back to the topic.
Yeah. Perfect. Love it. Tim, thank you again for coming on the show. And thank you, audience, for tuning in for another episode of MSP Insider. We'll see you next time.